So you're also a licensed arbitrator. What made you pursue getting a license, and have you used it? How has that impacted your practice or how you practice?
So I'm actually a certified arbitrator. There's no like license for it. But it's funny because arbitration is such a mysterious subject to so many people. It's a very fancy and complicated sounding word for just court that happens outside of court, right? Lawsuits, litigation that happen outside of court. It's private court. That's how I explain it to most clients. It's the easiest way to capture that. There are different systems that you can work through. There's the American Arbitration Association. There's another one called JAMS. There are contracts that will devise provisions that call for arbitration that involve private attorneys and not through these systems. So it'll say, for example, that if there is a dispute relating to this contract, it'll go through arbitration with one arbitrator, which is usually a lawyer or retired judge, and they have to have X years of experience, and these are the terms, right? So I write those types of clauses into my contracts too. I started doing arbitration work as an attorney when I worked in big law, and I was doing them all the time. It really is no different than the practice of law in a traditional setting in court. The difference is I actually enjoyed it because it's not public facing. Your clients feel much more comfortable about certain things being exchanged in the discovery process because it is significantly more confidential because in court, you have to file things and you can mark them as confidential, but if they're reviewed by the clerk and they're determined not to be, then it's exposed. And I have had my fair share of issues with that. You need to get a confidentiality order, confidentiality. It's a lot, very paper heavy, right? With arbitration, it can be a lot more streamlined. And that's the other benefit I find to arbitration is that those cases move a lot faster. So having had the experience being the attorney in the arbitration, being in front of arbitrators who are serving as judges, and it's usually a one person or three-person panel. I really enjoyed it. And in 2020, when COVID hit and the world shut down, and of course, I'm a business law attorney. So my business is businesses. And when businesses are suffering, they don't need a lawyer. They don't want to pay for a lawyer. So in turn, I suffered. And I looked for ways to continue to stay sharp and develop myself as an attorney. And so I became an arbitrator for the Financial Regulation Authority, FINRA. And those types of cases have a lot of crossover to subject matter I already do, like breach of fiduciary duty, securities violations. And that helped me gain the confidence to be an arbitrator in outside settings. And I have used it. I do have to do some paperwork to get onto the registry for the various counties, but I enjoy it because it's not the same level of scrutiny that you have as a judge, but you get to be a judge, right? Being a judge in the public forum, there's a lot of exposure because especially in Florida, we have a very liberal law about access to information. And I'm just not that person. I don't want that much exposure. I felt that exposed when I was a prosecutor because I had to file annual statements about my financial health as a prosecutor for ethical reasons, right? All sorts of things that you could Google and find out how much I made. And I just hated that level of intrusion into my life. And so being a judge is definitely not in the works for me. But being an arbitrator is like a great way to do that. But it also allows you to become sharper as an attorney, right? Because I'm seeing it, especially with these cases I've sat through it in FINRA. You have these cases where attorneys are so overconfident with what they're presenting to you, they're actually missing the mark and not hitting the elements of their claims. And that reminds me to do that in my own practice, right? And to be sharper in terms of presentation. And it helps shape the things that I put into governing documents for companies I work with, or the way that I present cases or write a lawsuit or an affirmative defense, all these types of things. It just lends to that part of my life being so much stronger.